5, 4, 3, live.
You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Well, here we go. It's the man that promises you nothing and delivers. It's the veritable man motor mouth. It's Roald Woods who feels the need to call himself Rob Vega. It somehow makes him feel important. Anyway, do have a listen and try not to throw up.
You know, with that kind of introduction, I don't know why anybody would not listen to this. I would think everybody would listen to this. This should be. I'm surprised we don't have 20 million subscribers just listening to this show.
What a mystery!
Yes, it's one of the mysteries of the world. I think that we're still waiting for people to come and do this. So
it's coming with a voice like that. Don't you worry.
So yeah, she doesn't know. She doesn't know all your impressions.
Before Steve goes off on one, I'd like to congratulate Stephen on his birthday today.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday, Stephen.
That's right.
Thank you. Yes. 14 billion years old. I look good for 14 billion years old. Yeah, it's a good thing. So
I think it's the crusty face that gives it away. But there you go.
Pretty much. It was. Can I tell you? I was here the day after the Earth cooled. So I've been around for a while. There you go. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you. As you can tell, I've indulged in most of my scotch. The 50-year-old Macallan is sitting over there in the corner waiting for me when we're done.
Wow.
So I'll be indulging.
Start the day. Very nice.
Yes. And I'll have my cigars and whatnot. And it'll be very, very exciting. So, but I'm glad you all could be here in person. I'm sorry?
Benny. We got Benny over here.
I go, Benny. Yeah, well, you know why? Because Benny which is John, is actually, for the people that watch, he's usually in New York. But today he's in the land of Nazis. What are you in Argentina, Uruguay, Peru? Same thing. All Nazis.
Uruguay is not the same thing. That's just
Nazis.
But John, do you have to change your name to Benny when you go to Uruguay? Is that why it's like, because people go to Uruguay for different reasons, don't they?
We have a statue of somebody that I call Benny. You know, he's a worldwide controversial figure, Italian.
Let's talk about Mussolini.
Yeah. Right. Oh, I loved his pasta.
Pasta's, I don't know, big.
Okay.
Yeah. So today I'm back. Since Steve is constantly, berating, the land down south, that
I don't berate it. It's what it is. I'm not the guys in the late 30s, early 40s that got in submarines and U-boats and decided that I was going to cross the Atlantic Ocean and set up camp in South America. I didn't do that. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But here's the best part. Mr. Woods is in South Africa. We know he likes South Africa. But Mr. Woods is having the gerbil today run his power because apparently, as the Financial Times has been talking about the last 2 weeks, and The Economist and every other paper, that they have no power. And people are starting to get a little annoyed. He's got a generator. He's doing the show from a generator today. So that is thank you so much for being here on our special day, even though it's only on my birthday.
There is a line between comedy and tragedy. And I'm not sure which side I'm on right now. To be honest with you, it's a very... I mean, anybody who's ever been here. I mean, I came here when I was a little boy. My parents came here when I was very small, and it's an amazing country. It's beautiful. I mean, I'm looking at gorgeous sunshine right now. It's a sunny place. Most of the people are very friendly, very, very easy to get on with. It's very sociable. I mean, I've traveled across Europe. I love Europe, but I have to concede. It's not quite as sociable. It's a very sociable place. It's very sociable. But there are some things going on right now which are really the result of decades of, and here's when I step into the tragedy line. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of, it's just theft. And it is starting to bear fruit. And the sad thing is that it's affecting the people. It's affecting... There were a lot of poor people, a lot of disenfranchised people back in the old days of South Africa when apartheid was around. A very tragic, horrible situation. And in 1994 was the whole, Mandela thing. We used to call him Madiba. and there's a lot of excitement, a lot of positivity. And I'm afraid those very people, the big mass of people, have been ignored. They're still very much out of the economic loop. It's not a color thing. It's a hierarchy thing. It's a power grab. And they are about to be, well, they are being seriously affected again, because all that happened really, I don't want to go on, but I'm going to go on, is we literally took all the idiots that were here, and just for the sake of reference, there were a bunch of white guys that were running the country and excluding just about everyone else. We took them out. We put a bunch of other people in there. Sure, they weren't white people, but you know what? They've kind of behaved the same way, and they've commandeered everything else, everything for themselves, just like those people did. Except now, instead of apartheid, we've got some, I guess it's like an economic apartheid in a way. And, you know, the roost is, it's coming home to roost. And there is so much good here, so much potential, and yet they're just screwing it up. And we have an election next year, and we're hoping something changes. So there you go. Back to you.
All of a sudden, I became like Johnny Carson. I've got my little white cards, and we're going to talk. So, well, I figured we'd get that in, because I knew that was a big topic, and I've been reading about it all. Like, here's the thing that between the four of you, this is going to be awesome. Let's talk about UFOs and the United States shooting down balloons. And here we go. We got lizard people coming. I'm so excited.
Dave,
yes,
Dave,
yes.
I wanted to use this vehicle to just say one other thing to anybody that might be listening, because there's a lot of misinformation about this. There are a couple of people in the government of this country, specifically the ANC, who had Soviet connections. There was, back in the day, there was a strong Soviet connection to the ANC. And right now, we've got a bunch of them that are overly friendly with Russia. I just want to say the rest of the country is seriously not on board with that. I just want to tell the world that. Ordinary South Africans are not happy with this naval exercise crap that's going on around our country. I just want to put that out there. Carry on.
Thank you. It's like point counterpoint at the old 60 minutes. So, well, talking about like naval exercises, here's what we talked about last night on a board call I was on. So not only about the UFOs being shot down all over the planet, we were talking about the comment that NATO, the Poland is asking NATO now to step into the Ukraine after they kick out Russia, which means if Russia decides to come back, it draws everybody in. But one of the 3-star generals that sits on our board said, what's happening is it's making America look weak. It's making the rest of the world hate America. And now we are fighting on 2 fronts, because you've got the Ukraine and Taiwan. Thoughts? Just throw it out there. It's a very political show today, apparently. We're not going to do anything too funny.
If I may say something, all of you gentlemen, this is amazing for me, because here I am in my little bubble of artistic life, in my little noosh nook, with my soap bubbles and my paintbrushes, without never really reading the news. So I feel already so grateful within, 8 minutes and 23 seconds of being in the midst of men that know exactly what is moving throughout the motions of the world. Please continue.
John, didn't you? John had a movement earlier, so he's very excited about that. Yeah. But thank you. We're here on Thursday. Tip your wait staff. Try the deal. So we were talking about that. So what's your thoughts on that? Or we can just talk about the UFOs that we keep shooting down, which apparently are weather balloons. Well, which I found out last night the cost to shoot down one of those. The missiles that shot them down, $400,000 a missile. Yeah. The airplane that flew up there is like a $2 million airplane, and the airplane to run costs $38,000 an hour, and they sent up 8 of them to shoot everything down. It's good to have a general on your board, because he tells you this stuff, and I'm sure it's public knowledge. If not, it is now. But it's awesome.
What was the cost? The total cost? Come on, Stephen, you've given us some figures.
Yeah, probably like $7 or $8 million to shoot down
$12.
Yeah, that's what he said. A $15 Mylar balloon that was like with a bunch of crap in it. And however many they shot down. But then you've got the other stuff that the pilots are saying no. Some of the other things they said they shot down were like UFOs, and I was like, well, that's interesting.
No, there's no. Can I tell you why it's not a UFO? Can I tell you why? Can I tell you
to.
What kind of advanced civilization sends a balloon 20 million years to the Earth
China. Right.
Okay. Are we defining them as an alien civilization now? Is that what we're doing?
Well, they have a wall. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But
islands too.
Thousands of amateur balloons and all sorts of.
That's true.
It's so silly, really. It is.
All I know is that it was the news of the week. Financial Times had it. The Economist had it. Every outlet, Bloomberg, everybody was talking about the UFO or the balloons, and I just thought it was the funniest thing.
This is
China's
so funny.
Spy balloon.
I mean,
China's spy balloon.
As a professional balloon painter, this is how I really started my career, painting balloons. And now the politicians are using ridiculous amounts of money to shoot balloons in the sky. My God. And thinking, yes, as you said, intelligence from abroad is going to send off a tiny little cute balloon out here. Yes, absolutely. Sounds great.
Oh my God! welcome to the world.
Can I start a global conspiracy?
Oh please!
Oh my God! This is the best.
Again?
Yeah.
Another one. Great.
I'm sorry, Roald. I know you had a lot of problems with the last global, but look, I did this a couple of weeks ago, right? Because but then stuff happened. And Stephen wasn't able to do the show, but
because of Austin, we'll talk about that.
Well, you see, so these were like my really hot topics, and one of them was about the fact that there is a lot of people on the planet who like to eat certain chicken products, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, there are different sorts of multinational companies that offer a variation of chicken products, and they all compete against each other. Mm-hmm. And then what happened was I read this article and heard this, and did a little bit of research. And what had happened is the following, and this is the first thing that I want to discuss today, because I think that something very sinister is happening on the world, because what they're trying to do now is they're trying to clone, here we go, guys, they're trying to clone a dodo, right?
John's right there.
They're trying to clone a dodo. So I think this has been sponsored by one of the chicken companies. I think they're going to have a whole new range of stuff, and it's going to be KFD. It's going to be Kentucky Fried Dodo.
Oh my God!
Right. So
you need some chicken. You do. You desperately need, and some friends, and
the dodo.
So I think that all this DNA research, all this sort of reconstruction of these, they want to corner a market. They want to do away with all the chicken products, and they're going to go straight into dodo. And they're going to dominate the world with that.
But that's kind of a crazy gamble. How do they know that dodo actually tastes good? I don't know about this, David.
Does anybody know? I mean, it's debatable as to whether or not the chicken tastes any good, but that's another story. So that was the thing that really set me off this week. And then, of course, the other burning question was,
wait. Roald wants to say something, David.
Go ahead, Roald.
Okay, entertaining your whatever this is. I mean, in the Matrix, they actually did say that they couldn't really, nail down chicken, so they made it taste like everything. So anyway, carry on.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, and of course, the other thing that I was confronted with, again, this was a week or so ago, was about having civil rights and the things you can or can't do in life. And, that sort of just set me off. I just wanted to know why, if I don't like... why can't I buy cheese fondant if I don't like cheese fondue? I think that's fundamental to my civil rights.
You got too much time on your hands, my friend.
Is this going on in Holland?
Yeah, it is. And finally, of course, is it sensible to move house in a winter storm? It's the thing that.
No, it's not.
Apparently not.
No, it's not. That's easy.
Let me. No, here's the problem.
You could lose your house.
So in Austin, Texas. All right. So here's the issue. So we were going to move, and here's what happens in Texas, because Texas their math is different than the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, you have an ice storm and freezing at 32. In Texas, the minute it goes below 40, everything shuts down. Everything. And I can tell you we were here in 2015 doing a deal, and it was 40 degrees, and the guy who ran the operations down here in Austin said, we can't let anybody come to work, 80 people. He just sent out a mass text and said, the office is closed due to icing. Because, icing happens apparently in Texas at 40. Meanwhile, that day in New York City, there's a blizzard. I'm talking a blizzard, like a whiteout blizzard. I called my buddy in New York and go, hey, how's it going in your office? He's got 135 people. And we show him, here's the picture of our Capitol here in Austin. Here's my office. 4 of us are in it out of 80. He says, you want to see my office? First, you look out the window. You can't see the building next door. You turn around, every seat is filled with his people. Because in New York, we got balls. In Austin, as the west of Texas, they're pussies. They talk a good game, and they'll shoot you. But the minute it drops below 40 degrees, they're like, oh, no, we can't. The movers said, we can't come. There could be icing. I'm like, what do you mean there could be icing? The sun is shining. It's like, no ice. And they're like, no, we can't move you. So we waited 3 extra days to move because the imaginary ice that could be. And then because it's 40, we had a power outage for like 24 hours because apparently the gerbil they feed over here didn't get a coat. Yes, sir.
No, I think all the power's gone to the KFD factory that they're building.
Okay. Mr. Woods is going to say something profound.
I'm not. I'm just going to say that when I lived in Connecticut and we used to have the snow days, right. I've got some very distant family that live in Norway that said, what's a snow day?
Yep.
What is a snow day? I mean, why would you not go anywhere in the snow? Oh, there's like 2 inches. Yep. Snow day. Buses slide around.
We have
they weren't referring to copious amounts of cocaine then.
No,
that's only in Miami.
Yeah.
When I lived down in Palm Beach, I remember we had a meeting and somebody ran late. And when he came in, I'm talking like July. He came in, he was like 10 minutes late. He goes, guys, I'm so sorry. The kids built a snowman behind the car. And I mean, like, you can't really be mad at that. That was very creative. So we're like, okay, we'll go with that. So it was very cool. So
I once worked with a guy who was always late for work. And he said, I always get stuck in traffic and it's a real bitch. And he was always late. And then the HR people said, well, this is your last warning and blah, blah, blah. And then they found out actually he walked to work.
Oh, wow.
But he just couldn't get his ass out of bed in the morning. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
Hey, so Mr. Woods, you had me do a voiceover for you, almost 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You want to tell everybody what's going on with rugby and the New York Yankees? Because it mentioned New York. Oh, by the way, apparently David's Nigerian Bank of New York has taken all his money. And apparently it wasn't real from New York. Who knew? Because it came from Nigeria. And David is suffering through it.
No, I've invested in KFDs.
Well, that's about yeah.
Okay.
So Kentucky Fried Dodo, I'm investing in that. That's going to be the next global thing. Trust me, guys.
Just like crypto.
Just like crypto. Yep. Right. It'll be just like a crypto. All right. That's awesome.
Kentucky Fried Crypto doesn't quite sound that good.
Something's getting fried, but anyway.
Maybe you can get a meal with the token.
McDonald's did that for years.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you want me to explain?
Yes. Yeah, please. I think it's very interesting.
In amongst all this corruption and theft that's going on, they decided, why not get Tottenham Hotspur in the UK to be a global tourist representative for South Africa? They were going to put banners all over the stadiums and tell everybody in the Premier League to come and visit South Africa via Tottenham Hotspur, who they, by the way, call Tottenham Hotspurs. But anyway, that's beside the point. If you're gonna approach someone and ask them for money, you should probably get their name right. Anyway, the thing is, they really didn't have the money or the budget, so I spun it around. By the way, that's been cancelled. Everybody lost their proverbial doodah over it, or dodo.
Or dodo over it.
Yeah. Dodo over that. And then I thought, because I do this parody cast, this newscast, and I thought, why not have something equally as ridiculous as the New York Yankees sponsoring the South African cricket team, which, by the way, at the moment is absolutely hopeless because it's just riddled with politics and, yeah, everything you can imagine. So I thought you could be the representative as part of a disruptive media campaign and have the New York Yankees, well, the South African cricket team play in Yankees attire and do a sponsorship deal that way. And that's where you came in. So you were my man, you were my voice. It went down very well. So that was the story.
Yeah, and that was my first voiceover that I've ever done professionally. So I was very excited. Yeah,
Ooh, I didn't see that.
It was listened to by at least a few people. So I was very excited.
It's a strange thing, isn't it? Because of sponsoring African countries, because Arsenal have been sponsoring Rwanda. So I don't know if that's to get luxury
for genocide or
no. It's that one of the teams. One of the things they sponsor is the company of the country Rwanda. So,
I do know they were sending illegal immigrants. Was it to Rwanda, the UK?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Well, they were going to. They bought up. They spent millions of pounds buying up, renting hotels.
So, Dave, explain this to me. So, let's say, for instance, you're somewhere in Morocco, for instance. I don't know why, just Morocco, and you manage to get your way over across the channel. You get to the UK because you think that's, I don't know, utopia for whatever reason, and you get there and you decide that you want to stay, and you get caught, and they send you to Rwanda. Am I understanding this?
That's So it's been taken to court a few times.
But why Rwanda? Because I mean, I just thought to myself, imagine the US has got Guatemalans coming up or wherever. I'm just picking on Guatemala. Sorry, Guatemala, and they cross the border. They get into Texas. They get picked up by someone called Dan, and they get deported to Taiwan. No, that's actually nice. The DRC. Why would what is the connection to Rwanda? Why?
I think what they did is they asked a whole load of countries who would like to have lots of money, and the Rwandans said, "Well, we'll have lots of money." I said, "Great. Then can we send you all our illegal immigrants?" Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's just a money thing, but they've been taken to court a few times because the plane actually was on the runway, fueled up and ready to go, and then the court said no, you can't do that.
You can't.
But they're still convinced they're going to do it because the choice is between Rwanda or a dilapidated Pontins or Butlins, holiday camp somewhere near Blackpool, one or the other.
Wow,
that sounds crazy.
Well, it's no different than
Uruguay, really.
Uruguay is a beautiful place because John's looking for Nazi gold right now. So John's trying to find his Nazi gold in Uruguay.
Is a small. I think 3 million people live in Uruguay. Yeah,
you preach, Benny. You preach, Benny. You keep going.
It's pretty expensive. Still, yeah. I mean, it's expensive for me, so it's expensive for locals.
Here's the guy. This is the guy with like so much Nazi gold that's not expensive, and he's in his little shack. His 10,000 square meter shack overlooking the ocean or the mountains or wherever he is on the beach.
Hey, look,
but it's expensive.
It's a small basic.
Get rid of the 27 servants that run that house, and it won't be as expensive. Okay.
Yeah.
Benny, Steve, John, whatever. I want to tell you something else that you might not know about Uruguay. Maybe you do know this about Uruguay and Paraguay. But I think it's Uruguay and Paraguay. Steve's got the whole Nazi thing going on, whatever. But it is apparently also home to a lot of the ex-apartheid people. They all tootled off to Paraguay and Uruguay. Just by the way,
to Uruguay? No, I think they must be Paraguay, not Uruguay.
All right, Uruguay, Paraguay, Mikasa Sukasa.
They're kind of, they're not that close.
Anything with Guy on the end of it, like.
Correct, Guy, exactly, Guy.
Any country with the name Guy is where the end of that's going. Yeah. So, and it's And just like the guys in the East Village, they go to any guy too, so it works out well.
Yeah.
So just like Key West.
It should actually be Benny Guy, isn't it? Because that's got your name wrong.
Look,
John,
I mean,
Benny Guy.
Benny Guy. That almost sounds like any guy.
I don't want to open my big mouth here, but
don't let this stop you, John.
Yeah.
So, or Benny. I'm sorry, I forget.
When it comes to UK, Europe, about immigration, I gotta tell you, I really like the new prime minister in Italy. At least she's got the.
And she's got armpit hair, and what else? Will you like her for what reason?
Giorgia Meloni. That's probably the only real leader in Europe now. The rest of Europe, there are a bunch of, as you say,
Yeah.
Pussies.
Yeah.
Okay. John, do you like the way she that she sticks her arm in the air? Is that what you really like? This sort of
and waves it like she doesn't care.
One of those jobbies. Is that what you like?
They have to look her up. The
Italian
Prime
Minister. But she said, we're not going to have open borders. A whole bunch of other political things. They probably. A man and a woman is, that's it, right? Those kind of things. She's.
An educated woman.
What do you mean by a man and a woman? Do you want to expound on that? Because everybody, all over the world, there's men and there's women and lizard people.
What's that about?
Biology determines what your sex
is. Okay. I agree with that all day long.
Oh, Benny, you're actually behind the curve because God has already spoken. There's the last couple of weeks. Church of England, my lot, have actually said, like it's, you've got to get that in, Stephen. So, they've actually said
the Church of England, I mean, they're just a bunch of
it's man, woman, and something in between.
The UK has lost it since the 1900s. Cambridge and Oxford are a bunch of socialist communists that teach that all over the world, and they've polluted us all over the place.
Boom.
That is the truth.
You don't have an opinion on this, then, Benny, by the sound of it.
No,
John, don't hold back. Tell us how you feel.
It's just a light commentary on what's going on. And in Europe, come on, they're just so guilty about the past that they just don't know what to do with the immigration issue, and it's overrunning them. And
but I want to go back to this one thing. So I appreciate the man and the woman thing, and when you're born, you're either a man or you're a woman. Yeah. I'm okay with that. Like, we're good. But if you're a woman or a man and you decide that you like, if you're a man, you want to be with guys, and you're a woman with guys, she's okay with that. But she's like, if you're born a man, you're a man. Who you sleep with after that, we don't care. And if you're born a woman, you're a woman. Who you sleep with, we don't care.
Yeah.
But what she's saying is, you can't be born a man or born a man and a woman and then decide, I'm a woman today, tomorrow I want to be a man. Is that what she's going with?
I don't know the detail of whether she's gone into that detail, but basically, part of her platform when she came on was, look, a man is a man and a woman is a woman,
Okay.
And we're not against family here in Italy. And if you want a dole or some kind of a social assistance, and you can work, then you should be working, not just sitting on your ass and expecting the state to solve every problem that you have.
Nice. Wow, a leader with balls in Europe. Who knew? You guys have that.
Yeah. Now, of course, the boys and girls in Brussels, have been trying to given the cold shoulder to her because it doesn't fit their narrative, which is, I don't know what the narrative is. Well, it's complicated.
Well, since the EU, the economic union was all started by that guy, the Nazi in 1955 is the one who started it. So, which most people don't realize, that's like a whole nother thing. So that's why it's their narrative. They're just trying to take over the world. Seriously, you don't know the beginning of the EU?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's how it started with the guy from 1955 who was basically a Nazi. He's like, we'll take over the world another way, and that's how they did it. So in theory, their plan worked. It just worked differently. It's just wrapped in a different color.
Yeah.
Was he from Uruguay?
Or Paraguay. You get it from one of the guys. I don't know.
Yeah. It's one of the guys. Yeah. So
look, Steve, you better start learning Spanish, but right there by the border that you are,
Listen, I know Spanish. I know "Pase de pepe, por favor."
Yeah, "Pase de pepe." Yeah.
Dinero, and as I learned from the Blues Brothers, how much for the little girl? Those are the three things I've learned, and they get me through everything here in Austin. When someone speaks Spanish, I go, "How much for the little girl?" And then so right now I've got like 26 kids. It's very nice. I'm very happy with it. So.
But I mean, in Texas, they don't need to speak Spanish because they speak sort of "we're going to shoot you" sort of language. So anybody that doesn't look like a redneck, they get shot.
I will tell you, in
allegedly.
In Austin, it's a little different because in Austin you have, good or bad. I'm not the only Jew I found out. There's a whole bunch of us, and we are allowed to come out during the daylight. It's very, very exciting.
But in Austin, do they get their houses moved on time as well, though, Steve? I mean,
no, they don't. None of the Jews. Apparently, we all just move during ice storms, and then that's how we do it. So that's when we can move. But there's a lot of people from New York, thank God, and there is people I didn't realize from California coming and the people I've met from California are all coming because of the tax situation. They want to make more money, so a lot of them are coming here, and then the house prices here are lower, but the houses here are built like, I'm going to huff them, puff them, and blow your house down. They're not built, they're good construction like you have, like if you will, in Los Angeles or whatnot, and in New York. So there's a few trade-offs to live in Austin, and then Dallas is different, Houston is different, and there's other parts that are more Texas. But Austin itself is very still hippie-ish, but with a lot of New Yorkers and Californians coming in, and Dallas is more New York.
God help that that those Californians don't start voting Democrats because
bastards, all of them. What, you're a Republican, John? John's a Republican. John voted for Trump.
I think both parties are pretty much the same. At some level.
Both terrible.
Yeah, they're both just stink. But if I had to pick one, I prefer a Republican. At least you could say that philosophically you could push them to on the right side of things, but.
On the right side.
I had some really good news this week because we had two letters that come through the letterbox. One was for Annette, the other was for me, and they were our voting slips, so we could vote.
Oh, wow.
Which was great because she said, you better open yours. So I opened mine, and I'm actually able to vote for the local water company.
Wow!
Which was,
you have come a long way in Amsterdam.
Wow.
Yeah, she can of course can vote for everything, being a Dutch national. I used to be able to vote for the local government, i.e., what day of the week I'd like to put my wheelie bin out. But since breakfast. Since breakfast even. That's gone all tits up.
Done.
Now it's all breakfast.
Nice.
But to my absolute amazement, I can actually go and vote for what they call the waterschap, and that's to vote as to whether or not the water goes to the right or to the left, basically. So I'm thrilled.
Wow.
I think that one of the biggest things that politicians forget, they are supposed to be public servants, but they somehow, I don't know what goes in their brain eventually, but there's like a short circuit and they don't do any of that. They're supposed to help the people to be better, to live better. I mean, to feel better, maybe it's too much to ask. That's to do your own work on it. But come on, where are the public servants of the world?
People who need people. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I gotta say, I got nothing to do with anything we just talked. But I was reading an article on in the U.S. There's a lot of in corporate in companies and in universities and a whole bunch of other places. There's people that are tasked with equity, diversity, and inclusion, and it's something that's never been mandated by law, but they've popped up all over the place. Oh, Ruth has corrected me, and she says there is laws. Anyway, what I found interesting was at the University of Michigan, the director for this, they make $430,000. $430,000.
Yeah, because that's what the average American makes. Is $430,000.
University here is just in the U.S. it's just unaffordable, and everybody takes loans for life. And I always wonder, where's the cost, right? The cost is in the administration, and this one role, which is, you know, very common and role from advertising, and I don't know, just 430, you know, plus benefits, you know, so it just cracked me up.
Wow.
That's
talk about public servants, you know.
Is that the same sort of gig as you get in South Africa then? The plus benefits is they turn your lights on? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
What?
You know, South Africa reminds me of Argentina.
So if you get a job, they actually have electricity to go with you, or they give you a home with electricity. Is that an extra?
Dave, I don't even know how to answer that question. Yeah.
Noosh, it's down the hall to the left.
Yeah.
We got to.
I do have something to add to the diversity and inclusion. So I'm part of a BNI group, Business Network International, which is an international networking group, apparently the best one that there is in the world. And I am on this. I wanted to be on this on the seat of the DEI, the diversity, inclusion, and equity, because I've been reading so much about how somehow it's not really doing any inclusion or diversity or equity, because it's forced in a way that basically boxes people. And in the art world, I read an article about one of the people that owns a theater, a very prominent theater in California, and that when all the DEI started, he took a stand for his ballet group and all of his artists, that this is not a political movement. We are the arts. Like, this is not, I mean, some artists choose to be political, whereas like a lot of those don't, because it's hard enough to hone your craft and to present something beautiful and exquisite, to then on top of that do a political post and you know, like manifestos and all of that. And it's been a few years now, and he's right on the edge of losing all his finances, because now all the donors only favor all the arts that will be taking a DEI political stand within their work.
So basically, we're going to be Nazi Germany. We're just doing it a little differently. And here's the other issue I have with all this bullshit. And pardon my French, not that I care. I think this exclusion and diversity, that's great, but enough's enough. It's kind of like the ESG and the B Corps. It's like, enough. It's like, at the end of the day, I read this article the other day in the Financial Times, and the guy was spot on. He goes, you know, reappropriation and people have to pay things. He goes, how? Who gets it? And he says, you know, when you have to give money back because you did something 300 years ago, he goes, that's fine. He goes, but why do we give it to the people who don't need it? Why aren't we giving it to the people who actually need it? So all this stuff to me is getting to a point, and rolls, because that's South Africa 30 years ago, right? And then they never got it. But that's the whole point. It's just enough of this bullshit. Like, the world wasn't a terrible place in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, in the 80s, we became more greed is good. And then from that point on, yes, it's gone steadily downhill, because it's like everybody wants more and more and more. People wanted more and more and more in the 60s and 70s, and everyone got along. Everybody respect for the most part, right? So yes, you have the bigots in the South or stupid people wherever, but you're going to have stupid people all the time. All you're really doing now with all this inclusion and disclusion and all this other crap is you're just making it worse, because you're making these little 5-year-olds so woke that you can't say squat, and they can't do this, and they don't know how to interact. You want to go back to, like, you know, everybody's like, oh, we should go. You can't, because of the phones and the internet and all this other stuff. So at some point, enough's enough. It's like, you are what you are, whether you're white, you're black, you're green. In fact, next month we're doing a show on racism with Brown Car Guy and Riz and David and I, right? So yes, Rolf, you can be on the show. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Definitely. Because my biggest issue is, obviously anybody with a brain hates racism. But what we've got going on here is something on another level. You talk about putting people in boxes and inclusion. We've got a situation here, which is where you've got a bunch of, just forget about the color thing for a minute. We got rid of those people 30 years ago. We put other people in who were ostensibly of a more suitable race. Race, of course, as we know, was a construct invented to justify colonization and crap like that. That's what I believe. And they got in and they did exactly what the people before had done. So black was doing exactly what white had done, and in just as a vindictive way. And now we've got a situation where basically all the white folks that were part of apartheid have either moved to Australia or they're dead or gone to Paraguay. And so you've got people in this country, the ordinary people, the ordinary South Africans here, couldn't give a shit about color. They just care about what is important, what is what needs to be done. And as Nushana and all that said, the whole name, people just want. They just want the trash taken out. They want the government to listen to them, kids in school, safety, basic things. People just really want basic crap out of a government. Just we voted for you. You serve us. But we've got a chief mentality here where the exact opposite. We've got some of the richest people on the planet in our government that have stolen everything. So Noosh, never come here because you will lose your dodo. Seeing at how politicians here have become bosses as opposed to servants. And the cherry on top is that we here 30 years in, the place is, there's still tremendous talent, tremendous goodwill, but our politicians have stolen so much. I'm surprised we still have economy. They've stolen so much, and yet what they will do is when they get found out, as they are now, we've got commissions and investigations going on. We really need people in jail, but, can't have everything apparently. When these politicians get found out, the first thing they will say is, the white people did all this, which really ticks the crap out of me, because 30 years ago, the people that are here now have got nothing to do with it. Steve, you talk about reparations. We have that problem now where people are unemployed. Their services, we've got no power, and yet you've got millionaires in government pointing fingers at them, saying the problems in the country are because of you. And there are a lot of people who are buying it. It is the most ridiculous, stupid thing you've ever seen. And I just feel at some point it's going to drive a lot of the smart people away. And may I say, I might be one of them, which is really unfortunate. Anyway.
Well, but it's just not that, but you keep driving this wedge. You keep driving the wedge between people. You know what I mean? Whether, I don't forget color. Like I have friends that are black. I have friends that are Mexican. I have friends I'm Roy G. Biv, right? I've got the Rainbow Coalition. I don't care. I pay them, but same thing. But I'm just saying. But like I do the Roy G. Biv, right? I got multicolored friends, whatever you want to call yourself, gay, straight, happy. I don't give a shit. And I've said this before. You're a human being until you're not. And what's happening is now these people that get into power, in my opinion, and I'm always right because I'm a lizard person and a Jew and we run everything, is that at the end of the day, they're just trying to put the great divide into the people because they're trying to figure out how do we make it worse? How do we make it worse? I've never seen a politician make anything better. No. They always want to make it worse. It's like, we're going to do this. And it's like, really? How does that making it better? It's all about, well, how will it benefit me, my donors, and whatever. So it's all about that. They're not looking at like, how's it going to, Mrs. Jones, who makes, $200 a week and she has 3 kids, how is it going to be better for her? And I think that's the problem that we have. And that's where I get irritated.
I have a solution.
Sure.
Okay. This is going to sound hideously misogynistically patronizing, but there it is. I genuinely feel good. I genuinely feel like we need fewer testosterone-laden people in power. And I'm not doing this for anybody's benefit. If you look at a country like Finland, I think the woman's name is Sanna Marin. I think she's the prime minister.
Yep.
Great. Things are looking good. Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. And Benny was the prime minister or the president of Italy. I have to say this. If you look at the hit rate of female leaders in the modern world, it's not bad. It's pretty good. And quite frankly, I mean, I grew up with a single mom, so maybe I prefer having a woman run things. But I got to tell you, and this is not, in all seriousness, I really think we need fewer, because men get in a room and it becomes this confrontation, excuse me, this fight, this angst, this power grab. I'm not saying they're women who are not partial to that. But damn, if you look at some of the female leadership around the world, and let's just say not female, good leadership, it usually is a woman in charge. I'm sorry, that's something I would like to see more of. But I don't know if you want to prescribe it. Just let it happen. Allow it to happen. I mean, the US, for instance, I find it astonishing that a modern day so-called superpower country has, okay, I know what happened with Hillary. Let's not talk about that. But in the modern world, there's never been at least a couple of women in power, not one. And that's extraordinary to me. I find that at least one or two, for goodness sake. You don't have to mandate it, but it just never happened? It just seems really bizarre.
But that's what you're talking about. It's filled with men, with this power thing, and like all this. I mean, it's like an aggressive world where women don't really want to be. I lead in my own way in my community, but it's true that when you get to a certain level, men just, I mean, it's hard to be around and to make a stand for a woman because they need to go to such lengths. They're a little bit unnatural to women. And yes, the leaders, the women, I mean, even look at the women, I'm not in politics, but in economy. Like you've never hear of multi-billion owning women business companies that just just buy boats that you need to move a whole bridge for, like Bezos, like this money hoarding and power that men get into. I don't know what's the threshold of money, but at a certain point, there must be a number. Then it becomes a disease, and it's a disease of money hoarding and power, and they get enough. They get stop.
Right.
And women we don't want to be around it, and we, it's.
I hear you. We've got to find a way for that. I don't know. I'm not sure what the solution is. I'm not sure.
I think the issue is like, I know when Walter Mondale picked Irene Ferreira or Janet, for whatever her name was, to be his vice president, that was a shocker. Right? You had Geraldine right? And I thought, that's cool. So that's cool. But I think the first, if you will, woman of power, like you look at Golda Meir and you look at, all these powerful women, and you're right, they did better. So I think lately in the U.S. we've got like Janet Yellen, who every time I hear on television reminds me of Woody Allen. But if you've listened to Yellen with your eyes closed, she sounds like Woody Allen. I'm sorry. In fact, the first time I was in somebody and Bloomberg was on, and she was talking, I go, why is Woody Allen talking about politics? And they're like, that's Janet Yellen. And I'm like, so Janet Yellen is Woody Allen for me. But Yellen has power. She went to the Fed and now she's doing this. So I think we're trying. I don't know if Harris, the vice president, has any power. Anything I read on her, nothing is positive. It's great. She's a woman of color. But I don't read anything good, even when she was in California. So, and Hillary, I thought would have been great, not for her political view, but because we would have a lesbian and a female, and it would have killed two things with with one thing. And there's nobody Democratic or Republican female right now that if you said they're going to run for president, that I think anybody would get excited about, because you know what I mean? It's bad. It's a pity that our country is still stuck in 1630. It's really for all the bullshit where people go, oh, women are this. No, they're not. People still want, women should be like little kids. You should be seen and not heard. Women should be good for one thing, behind closed doors. Because at the end of the day, that's how men are thinking about it. And you're not opening up their minds to listen, you can run something. I've worked for some women, and I know some girls today that I call them girls because everyone's a girl, but they are my age. They've got masters or doctorates in all sorts of things, and I've worked with them on deals and whatever. And any day of the week, I would choose them over 90% of the guys that I've worked with, and they know it. And I love them and respect them for it.
Steve, I just want to say this. Just to be clear, it's not a case of all women are all men. I'm not saying all women are fabulous leaders, but I'm saying, and Noosh made it, it's an interesting thing you said. Maybe we could say maybe they're just too smart. Maybe I don't want that BS in my life. And I think there are a lot of powerful women and men, but I'm focusing on women right now, who look at the whole political situation and go, I don't have time for that crap. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to present ideas, it's going to be good, and they're just going to look at me, and the room will smell of testosterone, and they'll say, well, whatever, and they won't listen to me. They're not listening. They're not hearing. And I think that's also true in the electorate as well, the voters. I still don't think we're at a stage where Like, so for instance, if a woman is strong and confident, she's bitchy. If a man does the same thing, he's a man.
Sure.
We have such a massive double standard, and that kind of feeds this whole idea subliminally that perhaps maybe the leadership thing is a bit tough for women, which is absolute bollocks, as we know. But how do you get around that? How do you get past that? And I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but we've got it. What I'm saying is we don't have a choice. We've got to fix it. You've got to deal with that, because we've got a bunch of men running the world right now, literally into the gutter. Look at what's going on. Look at the fights going on. I mean, I appreciate it's going to be tough. Men, women, particularly, we're talking about women now. I would feel it tough, hard to go into a situation like that. But added to which, if somebody said to me, right, you have to go in as a woman, and then you've got that prejudice and that belief that you're not really a leader, and if you present something, then you're bitchy, and for God's sake. But we have to reach a point where it's got to go, because these guys are screwing the place up. And I'm not saying all men and all women. I'm not doing that. I'm not it's not about a female-male thing, not at all. But we need to balance things out a bit. That's what we need, some balance.
I think I have the solution for this. Stephen, I'm sorry to interrupt, because what I personally realized, me being with an American man, my men used to, in my home, interrupt me all the time. So it's not even like a societal thing. In the house, you need to change. You need to make the shift. You need to let the woman speak more, take more responsibilities if she wants, but really listen to her. We've been together 3 years. He's just learning to stop interrupting me, just because men are used to, they have an idea. Let's speak it up right now. And just, unless it's a man, I noticed it at the dinners and the places we go. If it's two men speaking to each other, they let themselves speak. But me, women and artists, God knows what do I have to say that important that actually people have to listen to me. So it's really, as you said, subliminally in our culture, in our society. But all of those things start in the house by educating your men, educating your boys, and having a shift in the way we act with women.
I think that's very good. I think part of that's called RESPCT. I think Aretha Franklin said it. I'm not kidding.
Please, why don't you be here with me?
That's right. But think about it. When I was growing up, my household, you had to respect, male or female made no difference. And you and if you interrupt, you better have a good point to interrupt. But if not, you would wait. And literally, when I was a kid, we'd all walk around with our little pocket notes, because you couldn't interrupt. So you'd have to write things down so you didn't forget what you wanted to say. And I kind of still do that to this day. So it literally is that kind of thing. But parents don't raise their children anymore.
Exactly.
The internet does. And parents don't do this and parents don't do that. So the problem isn't that we're not teaching, it's that nobody is. Like my stepson, he's been with me now 2 years. When I first met him, when we would go out to dinner and his mom would get from the table, would never stand. I go, why aren't you standing up when she leaves the table and stand up when he comes back? He just looked at me. So now you know what he does? Does that. Gets the car door for her. Gets the door. Mom goes in first. He doesn't bolt. I'm like, when he does stuff, I'm like, what are you doing? He looks at me like, and now he'll hold the door for every woman. And I'm like, okay, now I don't know what he does for his dad's significant other. Don't care. I only worry about what he has to do here. And I said, when you grow up and you start dating girls or boys, hey, whatever turns your boat, I don't care. They will respect you. And if they don't, that's not the person you want to be with. You want to be with someone who respects you when you get their car door. You want to be someone who respects you when you stand up, when you enter a room. You want to be with someone who respects you. And the problem today is parents aren't doing their job, and YouTube people and podcast aren't doing their job. They're not teaching kids shit. So that's what the problem is. And until we start teaching the kids today, and I'm talking from like 5 years old until whenever, 105, that's where you're going to have the problem, because they can't get out of their own way because nobody is teaching them. And that's a problem.
Exactly. And to that, I'd love to, we had this conversation in the car the other day. One of the things that is special to America is taking things for granted. Yep. My ex-boyfriend told me about that concept years ago, and I really had to sit down with it and try to understand, because the way that my culture we are raised, there's no such a thing as taking for granted, because we have the innate sense of respect from the beginning. So things that are here taking for granted, they are expected from where I come from. the minimal respect that you show people by doing those things, like you said, Stephen, not interrupting, opening doors. Those are things that here, God forbid, you do something to offend. Now people are, you don't do, you can actually tell them to do that because you don't want to offend them. Oh, you're asking too much of me. Like, don't take me for granted. What does that even mean? When you give too much freedom with no boundaries to people, this is what happens. No education, no sense of nothing, no respect. And like it's like a big blob of nothingness with no effort on top of that. They don't even have a sense of effort nowadays. The effort is the reward. They don't realize. Look at me, president.
I like that.
Well said.
That's summarized. May I ask what you? I'm just curious. Where are you originally from? Just as a matter of fact.
I was born in Moscow, so 2 Russian parents, both artists, and I was lucky enough to be raised in France in David Ogilvy's castle, Ogilvy Mather, the father of advertising. So, and not only with Russian parents with the Slavic, very deep soul, but then in a French setting with international people coming through. The years and the motions at David's wondrous location. So I do have quite a breadth.
I'm very jealous.
I'm sorry?
I'm very jealous because look here. See what I got here. See what I've been studying for the last 4 years. See?
Ultimate French, please listen. My man is learning too. I would love to get you in touch. I can teach the both of you. Please help me out. That was my one condition with him. I will never be with a man that doesn't speak French. The one before that, he was like a Swedish fish, like like the blue, mure, all those whatever things. And he said, "Of course, my love, I will learn the French, my ass, the French. I'm seeing only croissant for now on Sunday mornings, so I'll hook you up. You boys learn."
I'm learning. Yeah.
I took French, and when I graduated university, I took my French and I went to France and I sat at a restaurant. And as I started to speak French, the waiter says, "Are you American?" I said, "Yes." He was great. Speak English. And I've never spoken French since. So I was like, and the guy said to me, he says, "Your French is not the French we speak here." And then I have a friend from Quebec who said to me the same thing. He goes, "Yeah." He said, "I don't know what the crap they're teaching you, but it's not the French that we speak." So when you learn French in a university, it's a different French apparently than the actual French.
No, but it's still proper because I caught Michael yesterday. I was meeting, I'm the president of my Chamber of Commerce, and Michael had to drive me because we had a long day of driving. Anyway, I caught him listening to some new courses and classes that he's taking, and it's slang French. I want him to speak to me like Voltaire. I don't want like vas-y, on y va, like like the 15-year-old that don't know how to speak. So I'm so glad that I caught him. None of that. Voltaire, Molière, toutes ces belles œuvres. Oh, I want real French.
Later today I'm going to have French toast. That's like real French, right? So
it's a great start. By the way, French toast, the way you do it in America, it's not French at all. You completely miss the point. There's so much spices. It's so thick. It's so sweet. French toast, pain perdu, comes from the dried bread that you have at the end of the week. Then you need to put a little bit of milk, sometimes egg. It's supposed to be a peasant dish. Egg, sometimes you didn't have at the end of the week. And then you just grill it in a pan and then put a little bit of sugar. It's much better than that mountain of gluten and sugar and Slurpee, whatever the hell you did here. No bueno. I almost sued this country for emotional distress the first time I had a French toast. And then the French baguette. Oh, God. This is liable. This is liable, my friends. Easy. You cooks out there.
Well, guys, I hate to say this, but this has been a very quick hour. And but the good thing is, when we go off the air, we'll discuss when the next show will be, and we will come back, and hopefully Mr. Woods will have power. John will be out of the land of the Nazis,
and I will be on power.
Thank you for rubbing that in for the people in South Africa.
Can I say something quickly?
You can say whatever you'd like, sir.
I'm not going to start a conversation now because it's a little intimidating, but I'm going to say, j'ai vraiment apprécié.
Oh là là, génial, parfait, un nouvel élève dans ma vie.
You're
welcome.
And
on that note, David, run the ending credits.
Right, for those of you who don't speak, what I say.
No, don't tell people. Oh my God.
Thank you so much for listening to this Roald Woods, Rob Vega, whatever the hell he wants to call himself, fellow. You know, this podcast thing, it makes him feel very important, and he's a difficult fellow as it is to deal with. So thank you so much for putting up with him, and do take care.